This episode is brought to you by the Regional Air Quality Council, because it's time to go green and set the summer trend. Get yourself a 30% point-of-sale discount on new electric lawn and garden equipment statewide in Colorado at participating retailers. That's 30% off electric lawnmowers, leaf blowers, and string trimmers. Actually used this recently. My husband was like, how do we get that discount? And I was like, I think you just have to find a retailer. And he was like, okay. And then we did it. Learn more ways to help improve air quality along the Front Range at simplestepsbetterair.org. That's simplestepsbetterair.org. Today on CityCast Denver. We've been talking about it all week. Thousands of King Soopers workers went on strike Wednesday morning, and they are still out there holding the line. So Paul and I went to our local Kings to hear from the workers and whoever else we could get to talk to us. Today is Friday, January 14th, 2022. I'm Bree Davies, and this is CityCast Denver. Okay, so we're at the King Soopers that I shop at Alameda and Wadsworth in Lakewood. It's hard to tell on a Wednesday afternoon if business is slower than usual because it's kind of a downtime for shopping. And we're going to talk to some King Soopers employees who are currently on strike.
Hey, Bree.
Hi, Paul.
Hey, so we, a couple days ago, we went out to your King Soopers. Maybe before we hear from the strikers, you could just give the listener a few more details about what the scene looked like. I think people are curious.
Yeah, I think when we were talking about this earlier, I think about what we think a strike looks like. And because this is like thousands of workers across dozens of stores, it's not this like huge momentous scene. It's really folks that work at the store, a handful of them, maybe a couple dozen, just kind of parked outside, waving at people and trying to get you to support them. And they're handing out information. We weren't allowed to talk to anybody except for the union rep. So that was kind of interesting. But I don't know. The energy is not the same as you expect, but I think I realized that was like a media created or movie created thing I was expecting when this was just people outside of their job trying to get us to hear them out.
Yeah. Xander was really excited to hear chanting in the audio, and there was no chanting, unfortunately.
There was none. There might have been at some more busy stores, but
yeah, different kind of strike.
Yeah.
So let's hear first from John, that union rep you mentioned, and then we'll be hearing from James, who is just a citizen who came out in support, and Nick, the assistant store manager at King Soopers.
Hi, are you the union rep?
I am right here.
Hi, my name is Bree Davies, and I'm from a local news podcast called CityCast Denver, and we just came down to talk to some folks about what was going on.
So we're in the strike zone right now because of unfair labor practices. Example being, bringing in temporary workers, things like that.
How long do you feel like it's going to last? Because it sounds like there seems to be at an impasse.
I'm just right here at the store, so it's hard for me to say what's going on behind the scenes, okay? So.
Sure. So what are you trying to relay to the customers? Because obviously it's kind of this tense situation where they're coming in the store.
Yeah. So you've seen the pamphlet we've handed out, and so we just want them to be enlightened about the situation. You hear that right there? Okay. They're backing us. Yeah. They understand where we're at. With unfair labor practices, and we're looking for higher wages and better coverage on health care. That's all natural for any company that you work for, even yourself.
How can customers support you all right now?
Some have coming in saying we support you. They'll go in and buy what's necessary. Others will, once they're informed at the door, turn around and leave. We've had people peeping their horns too. They see us out there, they just drive by, they don't pull in. So.
How long have you been with King Soopers?
I've been with them for 8 years. I came in from New Hampshire, worked for supermarkets there as a meat manager. So they were all non-union. So when I came here and was introduced to union, after observing everything, I found that a union needed to be occupying this here.
I'm also thinking about, I mean, the job that you do is skilled labor. It's not necessarily, you know what I mean? We need people that know what they're doing. So how does that feel to you that they're bringing in scabs to do that?
My position there is skilled labor, like you said, and I just feel bad for some of the other departments. You can't just bring in a meat cutter from anywhere nowadays. They scoffed me right up when I came here and wanted to work for them. So, but it's because of the wage levels that we've fallen behind over the years that we aren't as competitive to try and get the skilled people we need.
And so that's sort of part of what this strike is about, right? Is to get better wages to get those folks.
Correct.
Oh, is this guy coming around again?
Making a second round.
Hey, that's great.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Sean.
Yeah.
So first of all, could you tell me your name?
James.
So James, what brought you out here today?
Well, in support of the workers of King's, I'm out here. I'm usually around this area constantly, so I know every single worker that works at this store. And as far as I'm concerned, King's can, until they get this under control, they have lost my business. Because I've seen this. I've seen how King's treats their employees. They don't treat them worth diddly. And my opinion is everybody, until they get this under control, they need to shut King Soopers down.
What have you seen in that makes you feel so strongly?
I've seen how, how employees get treated. I've seen how they want them to work until closing, which is midnight, but they don't pay them but pennies on the dollar. And another thing, too, they also discriminate against wheelchairs because I tried to get hired on, but because they said, because I'm in a wheelchair, they can't hire me. I felt that was worth striking over. So, I'm just out here in support of the workers.
Now, we're out here. We've seen a few other people go in. We've seen customers walk past the strikers. What would you hope those people understand about what's happening out here?
I hope they understand that they're going to get less service until they get this under control, because management is the one that's controlling everything in there. So it's going to be longer lines and a lot longer wait period because everybody is out here in support of the workers. So I hope that they realize that there's Walmart, there's Safeways, they can go other places. I don't understand why they have to go to King's until this gets under control. So.
Excuse me, sir. Hi, we're a couple of journalists covering what's happening out here. Do you have a second to talk?
It depends on what you need.
We're just asking people how they feel about what's happening.
Can't really comment too much on that.
Okay. We'll start with something easy then. Can you tell me your name?
Nick,
So Nick, what brings you out to King Soopers today?
I'm an assistant store manager. I'm just helping here.
So how do you feel about the strike?
I mean, it's their right to strike. Hopefully we can get it over soon, but we just have to see.
So what? So you work for King Soopers. You're here working.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So do you understand why they're doing it? Like the unfair labor practices they're talking about?
So the unfair labor practices are in reference to King Soopers hiring like temporary labor workers to come into the stores and help. And they're calling it, the union is calling it a breach of contract, but it's really not. It's actually in their contracts that they can bring in people like this.
But maybe it doesn't feel good.
True, I can see from their point of view. Like I said, it's their right to strike. So
yeah. Now, we've heard some stuff about King Soopers and like the unfair labor practice, some of the details. I was reading this morning about like a food bank type thing. Like there's rooms in some of these King Soopers where people can donate food to other employees who maybe can't afford to like buy lunch for themselves on shifts. Have you heard of anything like that?
Most King Soopers do have something like that available. Like a food pantry or a food bank. They just kind of keep it upstairs in the break room for them. So there's usually just like snacks, kind of like simple, easy prepared meals for them. That way, like you were saying, if they can't afford it, there's something available for them.
So you're managing people in the store. Have you heard from your employees stories about people like struggling to get by?
I don't work at this store normally, so I'm just down here helping out. Where I'm from, no, not normally. I don't really got nothing I've ever heard of before.
What do you think our listeners should know that they wouldn't hear from the strikers?
I would listen to both sides of the story, not just what the union's putting out there, but what our president is putting out there too, Joe Kelly. Just be informed on the facts and, make your decision for yourself.
Okay. Well, thanks, Nick. Appreciate your time.
This episode is brought to you by Choir League. Choir League presents Sing and Shout, an unforgettable afternoon celebrating the powerful legacy of African American spirituals, the foundation of all American music. On Sunday, May 4th at 3:30 p.m., join Lonnie Norwood, gospel singer and teacher from the South Side of Chicago, for a workshop and performance with Choir League. Lonnie will guide folks through this powerful American art form, where it came from, and how it informed American music that came after it. You can buy tickets now on Eventbrite and enjoy the show with Lonnie, but you can also join Choir League. The group meets weekly for practice at local breweries and distilleries. Singers can sign up for 6 to 8 week sessions, and there's always a performance at the end of each cycle. There's no audition to join and no experience necessary. Tickets for the May 4th show with Lonnie Norwood are on sale now at Eventbrite. Just check the link in our show notes. For more information on the program and joining the choir, visit choirleague.com or email info@choirleague.com.
Well, Bree, when we drove away from King Soopers that day, what were you feeling?
I started thinking a lot about the role of the grocery store in our community. And I've grown up a King Soopers shopper my whole life. Like we didn't go anywhere else but King's. And I was thinking about how they employ people of all ages. That's something that you rarely see in a lot of workplaces. Generally, the demographics represented are a lot of the same. And at the grocery store, you see every kind of person.
Yeah, it's a lot of people's first job. It's a lot of people's last job.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's some people's only job. And also that job stability was something I thought about. Seeing the same people working at my grocery store for decades. That point was sort of driven home for me when we started talking to the folks, or seeing the people at the grocery store.
I want to hear what you think about that Nick guy in particular, the assistant manager, and what he said about the food pantry thing, because that was a detail from the reporting around this that really, really stuck out to me.
I'm like shaking my head in just pure frustration and annoyance that I have had that manager before, that kind of personality is for some reason put into a position to manage other people. Like I was appalled by his lack of any emotion whatsoever about what was happening at his work. And that, to me, like him being like, yeah, I mean, maybe we have food pantries for our employees. Like, to be fair, he's in management. He's not going to say this fundamentally speaks to how underpaid our folks are. But I don't know. I just wanted to walk away from that guy. I was so frustrated and like angry for the other employees. Someone has to report to you, and you don't even seem are you checked in today, guy? I don't know. Oh, it's a person. I came from retail of 15 plus years, almost 20 years in customer service. That guy was my nightmare manager.
But specifically the thing about the food pantry, like he said that was something that exists at most stores, but that at his store, hasn't seen anybody that has witnessed
Lying.
food insecurity.
Lying.
Why do you say he's lying?
What magical store does he work at? That he's not feeling the impacts that every other store seems to be feeling based on some survey information that we read recently we'll talk about. But like, what about his store makes it special? This is a large corporation. They don't do things. These are not individually franchised stores. There's not something special happening at his store that's not happening at these other stores. And if employees are saying they have a food bank set up for us in our break room, come on, man.
Yeah. Well, tell me about the survey.
Yeah, so there was some reporting on this survey that was funded by the union that's representing these workers at the grocery store right now. And it was performed by a nonprofit research group called the Economic Roundtable. And it was a survey of Kroger and King Soopers and City Market employees. And there was some really startling stuff in here that data that backs up what we've been hearing from the union about what's going on here. And one of the things that was striking to me was 14% of Kroger workers are now homeless or have been within the past year. That speaks directly to this argument we seem to have over and over again about our houseless community members, is that they need to, quote unquote, get to work. We have folks that are working and they can't afford to live here.
Yeah. I mean, I think about the Queen Soopers in Capitol Hill. Like, if you're making $16 an hour, the starting wage, what would be the starting wage based on the company's most recent offer, how could you possibly afford to live anywhere close to Capitol Hill?
Absolutely.
It doesn't work. It doesn't make sense.
Well, and it again, it's like making me think about a different picture of Denver when I lived in Capitol Hill in the late 90s. A ton of my, like the folks the workers that I interacted with at Queen Soopers when I went there lived in my neighborhood, lived in buildings right near me. And that has changed a lot. And again, I don't know. That's where we talk about community and what it means to literally work in your community and be around the people that you see on the street every day. I don't know. That's all just part of being a human and living in a city that I think is lost sometimes when we talk about housing issues.
Yeah. Well, I have to say one thing. Nick encouraged us to listen to both sides, and we have not really featured much of what the company has been saying on our show this week in our coverage of the strike. So I wanted to correct that. I pulled a couple of statements and a couple of numbers from the company's most recent offer to the union. So here's one. King Soopers President Joe Kelly said in a recent statement that the UFCW Local 7 is, quote, putting politics before people and preventing us from putting more money in our associates' pockets. He's obviously referring to their most recent offer, which was $170 million over the next 3 years, which would include wage increases and something called ratification bonuses for all associates. I don't really know what that means, and that like big number divided by a lot of people, kind of hard to understand what that would be. But according to the Colorado Sun, the new offer would pay a full-time checker with 5 years of experience. It would increase their hourly rate by $1.50 to $21.01 per hour. And that same checker's wage would increase to $22.61 per hour by 2024. So, I don't know. I mean, that is more money.
Yeah, but is it enough to live? I mean, that's when we get down to it. Something else I think about with this conversation about the strike and the union and King Soopers in particular is this is a local picture of a larger problem. Like, we have not seen wage increases across industries for a long time. So hopefully that's something that maybe will get the ball rolling in other industries too. It's like, it's just not enough. And unless we can tackle things like housing costs and the cost of transit and these other basic things, other industries are going to have to get with it too. People cannot sustain on the wages that they currently are trying to live on. And I don't know. It's just, to me, it's a smaller picture of a larger problem.
Well, we got one more thing for you all today. Bree, after you and I left your store, I was feeling curious about the people who worked at my store. So I stopped by my local King Soopers. Same scene there. Various people standing with signs, picketing.
Is this the one on Leetsdale?
Monaco.
And okay.
Mm-hmm.
The corner of Leetsdale. Totally. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Just getting a picture.
Yep. I didn't actually recognize any of the people that were picketing outside my store. I don't think it was, maybe it was people who work different hours than I normally go, but I don't know. I don't know what the story was there, but I did recognize the strike captain that they directed me to speak with. Turns out he's sort of a friend of a friend, someone I know secondhand through JD Lopez, who's contributed to CityCast in the past. He's a stand-up comedian named Andreas. That's how I know him, but turns out he's also been a King Soopers employee for 12 years, and he was out there leading this group of strikers. So we're going to hear my conversation with Andreas.
My name's Andreas. I'm the strike captain for this store, King Soopers 10 at Monaco, 890 Monaco. We're out on an unfair labor practice strike. Do you know what that is?
Tell me about it.
So an unfair labor practice strike, unlike a regular strike vote that the union members are accustomed to, we got to go out because we voted on it due to the fact that the company was giving our bargaining work to outside people that weren't in the union. So they're giving it to gig workers.
I think some people call them scabs.
Scabs, yeah. Well, these guys were just temps that didn't know. The guys in the store right now are indeed scabs, yes.
How does that feel knowing someone's in there doing your job?
Honestly, it's kind of dumb, because we're here ready to work. We want to work. It's never been an issue of not wanting to work, but we're not getting the proper protection and respect from the company right now to be in those stores, and it's messed up because they're paying those scabs in there $18 an hour, and with a straight face telling people that $16 an hour starting is the best deal ever. That's insane to me that they can tell us, they're going to pay $18 so they can try to trick us into taking $16 at the bottom, when minimum wage is only 13 cents less than that. And then on top of that, that's for just the new guys. I'm vested. I got almost 12 years with the company, and for me, I think they're only asking to go up maybe $1.50 when wages haven't really gone up much at all already. So we're already behind. So for them to be paying people more so that they could pay us less later is an insult.
So you said you've been doing this 12 years?
12 years in March, yeah.
What's your role?
Currently, I'm a front-end supervisor, so I'm the guy that you talk to in the front, when the coupon doesn't work or you want to do a return or what have you, and I manage the front end. So most of my job is customer service.
Huh. So how have the last 2 years been compared to the previous 10?
The opposite of a cakewalk, It was rough. It was really rough, because you went from being kind of staffed. That's some support for the listeners there. But yeah, we went from being kind of staffed to not being staffed at all. And we went from being heroes to not being anything at all. And we went from being just grocery store workers to heroes. We had a lot of role changes over the past 2 years, We went from being like the greatest thing on earth, which I think was a bit of a stretch, but we were the only thing you could go to for a while. I don't know if you remember, but yeah, everything was closed except the grocery store because the grocery store was essential.
It was like entertainment for me and my wife. Every week we would come in, we would look forward to it. Come in and just to see different colors, be in a different space.
Yep, it was just to be kind of social for a little bit, to feel some sense of normalcy, And that wasn't exactly safe, We weren't exactly, I don't know if you remember how safe a grocery store actually really was. We didn't get those plastic guards at King's at least until well into months. People died before we got those guards in, you know what I mean? Yeah. And that's another problem is with the safety with this place. Something bad always has to happen instead of just listening to us, the people that are in these buildings for 40 plus hours a week, asking you, this is what we need to have this job be safe, for us to be in this building without being worried of getting hurt during one of those 40 hours plus,
I see a lot of customers coming in and out right now. How does that feel, looking at people who you've served over the last 2 years just walk right past?
Unfortunately, you're not going to get everyone's, solidarity, and not everyone's going to support what you're doing. Some people, if it doesn't personally affect them, they're never going to, care either way, and they're going to be out and they're going to do what they want to do. But we have had customers, you heard the honking earlier. We got plenty of people coming out at the same time, telling us they support us, telling us, just stopping by just to tell us, hey, I'm not going inside. I think you should be fighting, I think we have a very strong community support going on right now. Obviously, there's people that are coming in and asking for forgiveness while they do. They're like, hey, man, I didn't get a chance to shop before this all went down. I swear this is the last time I'll be in here till this is over, So, people got to do what they got to do, and we respect that. But we are very appreciative of all the support we have gotten already.
Well, Andres, because we have this weird personal connection through JD,
Yeah.
I know that you're a stand-up comic.
Yeah.
Is there anything funny about what's happening here?
I haven't been able to write a joke about this at all. Do you know how mad I have to be so mad I can't even take anything fun out of this right now? I write jokes about all sorts of silly things, and I find this serious. It has to be, because as a comic, that's one of your goals, is to make everything relatable and find the truth that makes it funny. And right now, man, the truth is not funny. The truth sucks. When it's over, yeah, maybe I'll have a new couple minutes on it. Hopefully it's more than that, because I got the gray hairs and, the loss of hair that I've aged. I've aged doing this fight, man. I'm not going to lie to you.
Tell me about it. Why?
I don't get ID'd at the bar anymore, for one, and I really thought I looked younger than I did, but that's a lie now. That changed ever since I started working on this. But it's been a lot. It's been a lot going to those meetings, to those bargaining, because we have open bargaining. Not many unions have that. Not many people get to see open bargaining.
What does that mean?
The members of Local 7 are allowed to sit at the bargaining table, in these conference halls with the company. So you'll have 25 board members that are here discussing the contract, looking at the contract proposals. You have the actual directors and the president of the local on one side, and you have the lawyers and maybe one or two representatives of Kings on the other side, discussing a contract and going through proposals with each other. And the members get to see firsthand, if they choose to go, they get to see firsthand what is being said about their contract on both sides. And I will tell you, if you go and you see it yourself live, the company seldomly ever says anything that is in support of the worker. And I think if more people came out to those, I think we'd have an even bigger influx. And instead, people just have to live it now, which is a little crazy. But next time I say, if you've ever been in a union and they offer you the chance to go to open bargaining, please go. And I think that would change a lot in this world.
Just to look someone in the eye and consider their proposal.
Absolutely. Yeah. So, to hear someone tell you why they don't think you deserve, a safer space and what their logic is on what a safe space is, and to hear someone tell you why they think they deserve the wages you deserve instead of the wages you think you deserve, and, go see it for yourself when you get a chance, if you ever join a union.
Does anything specific jump out from that open bargaining process you remember?
Yeah, we were asking for more security in stores after the Boulder shooting, and they looked at us with a straight face and said, well, we don't want to put cops in the stores because cops have an 18% accuracy rate when they fire their weapon. So that was their logic. That's what they threw out as like, oh yeah, cops really don't hit their targets very often. You don't want a cop in your store in case something goes bad.
I don't know what to make of that.
Yeah, it was a pretty quiet room. If it was anti-comedy, it would have crushed,
Yeah, I guess so.
One point that I've been talking to people about, for me personally, the stores aren't safe necessarily in a security way. They're also not safe in a sanitary way. We're so understaffed right now. We don't have enough people doing maintenance at all hours of the day. Right now, I bet there's not even, they've had one real maintenance person all day during this strike. So I don't know what that restroom looks like right now. Because I could tell you at a regular store, most time you're lucky if you have 1 8-hour shift. The store's open from 6 a.m. to 11 p.m. That's more than 8 hours last time I did the math. You know what I mean? So that means as soon as that person leaves, that restroom is left to its own devices. And anything can happen, and everything does happen,
What kind of scenes have you walked in on?
Oh, I've had a waffle stomp stuff,
Oh.
Yeah.
You're talking about, shit?
Yeah. You see all sorts of crazy stuff in a restroom at a grocery store. And if you haven't, I am really glad that you've never had to use a grocery store restroom, Yeah, I feel like a lot less of that stuff would happen if we were properly staffed. And the only way to get properly staffed is to properly pay,
Yeah. I want to hear about how this is affecting you personally. this going on strike, not doing your job, coming out here and standing in solidarity with your coworkers instead. What does this mean in your life?
I mean, the line was made in the sand. Obviously, like if you're a member and you're crossing right now, it's going to be hard going back, because there's always going to be people that cross the picket line, unfortunately. This isn't going to be a 100% thing. There's going to be people that have, their own life choices to make. Some of them make sense to me if they say them out loud, and other ones I'm like, it just sounds like you didn't want to be out on a picket line, man, fighting for this. I feel like I'm losing friends over this when it's all over, once the dust settles. I'm more pro-union now than I ever was before, I'll tell you that. Watching this all unfold, it was like, if we didn't have a union, they would have trampled all over us. And there's so many things that we wouldn't have if we weren't, a union. So,
like what? Give me an example.
So right now, the company cannot give you short rest. So they can't have you working, your shift and then come back at least 8 hours. If they do, they got to pay you time and a half. We wouldn't have that without the union. So, there's incentives to being unionized. We get to fight for stuff like that so that you can have a life, So we do all these things that we do our own personal preventative measures to prevent the company from being able to abuse us. And the way we do that is by affecting them with money, because nobody wants to pay time and a half for regular work. So, we do all these things that are like, well, if we're going to do that, you got to pay us time and a half. So then they try their best to not make that happen, And they're trying to get rid of a lot of that kind of stuff so that they can do that. And they can use this however they want, split shifts and short rest overtime. So they want to be able to make you clopen and not have to pay for it.
So by short rest, just so I can make it sure that I understand, that's like if your shift ends at midnight, they couldn't just tell you your next shift starts at 8 a.m.?
Yeah, well, they can't tell you your shift starts at 5 a.m. Anything before 8 a.m. you shouldn't be working. And if you're going to be working at that time is time and a half.
Right. Okay. I want to know if there's any part of you that can see it from the company's perspective.
Yeah.
Like they're going through the economic downturn that the rest of the country is,
They made money hand over fist, though, on us. That's the problem. If things were really bad, I'd get it. If they were also hurting, but they're not. They did like $1 billion in buybacks, in stock buybacks, and they're giving out $20 million bonuses to people who got to stay home while, we had people actually die. It doesn't make sense. So we're fighting for safety. And I think when a company is making that much money and still not, and telling people that 13 cents above minimum wage is a raise, something's not right. And I don't feel bad for them, and I don't feel bad for being out. So, I get it. They're a business and businesses are meant to make money, but there's a limit and they passed it.
Well, Andres, thanks so much.
Yeah, thank you, Paul. Appreciate it. Tell JD I said hi.
I'll see you first.
No, you will, man. I'm out here. I haven't been able to do an episode with them in like months. Yeah.
That's all for today here on CityCast Denver. Our producers this week were Paul Caroli and Alexandra McMahon. Peyton Garcia writes our morning newsletter. Our music is by Los Mocochetes, with additional mixing by Tyler Lindgren, plus more from the Epidemic Sound Library. If you haven't already, subscribe wherever you get your podcasts, follow us on Twitter at CityCast Denver, and tell a friend about us next time you see them. You can sign up for our daily newsletter and learn more about us at denver.citycast.fm. Bye-bye. I also loved he used a retail restaurant term, clopen.
I did not know what is clopen?
So when you work a clopen, it means you close and then the next morning you open.
Oh.
And you're not supposed to, like he was saying, work clopens unless they're going to give you time and a half.
Huh.